but the last thing that we want is this huge new influx of farmers all going into factory farm or running CAFO productions or something like that. So how do we encourage people not just to get into agriculture, but to get into sustainable practices? How do we get them to go into that direction specifically?
You have to attach the individual, like when I had these, when we do our farm academy, and at the end of the class, after they've been told that no one's going to lend them money, I tell them, you know what you don't understand is that you don't want to go into that business. You're going to get beat. Like I'm getting beat in that business. And what we need to realize is that these individuals, that's the brand. And the problem with the current agriculture model is that those behaviors that we don't want are not connected to the consumer. So the consumer can't hold an individual accountable. My farm, like my name's everywhere. If something goes down, I'm going to hear about it and feel bad, and my brother's going to get mad at me, my wife's going to get mad at me, the kids are going to know about it. It's going to be, something that I don't want. And that's the value that our organization brings to the food supply, is that we're doing things differently and we're representing them that way, and we're putting our personal face and signature on it. And new farmers need to realize that when they come into the business, if they think that they're going to compete against Cal Organic or these large companies, they're not. They're going to get beat at that game. They need to play the game of, oh, I'm going to go in, like these food trucks. Oh, I'm going to go in. People like me. I'm a brand. I'm adding value. We saw that, a little bit of money at the top line magnifies through the food system, so it's real money at the production level because they're not having to pay for all these middle steps. And that's the solution and the approach. And the other thing to realize is, I tell people, your strength isn't in actually growing things, like as an example, but you really like showing this to people. Like perhaps you need to consider an agritourism model. Like that does the same thing. Like think outside the box. All of the value for these new small growers that are going to succeed are in that individual person. And as soon as you start empowering and the system starts rewarding these individuals who want to do things different and better and be transparent about the process, and other people like consumers who care, they're never going to go into suddenly, they're not going to sell out one day and go down the road that we don't want.
I have a different twist on that. And it's kind of interesting, aquaponics being such a new thing, that every commercial venture in the US has some coupling revenue stream in there because they haven't made it work financially just by selling produce. I look at that as a failed business model. And if a farmer has to come up with a way to make money beyond selling food, there's definitely nothing wrong with diversification, but it definitely says there's something wrong with our system. And so for me, what's wrong with our system is how we operate, where we have we used to have a lot more, but even today when we have almost no farmers left, we still have a lot of people competing to sell food to us. And the solution to that, to me, is something that's been proven for hundreds of years. It's called a cooperative. And so we're actually launching something specifically to address that issue called the Urban Farm Alliance. There are other cities that have already done it. There's one in Baltimore. I think they're doing pretty well so far. The Urban Farm Alliance is positioned to do exactly what help farmers in a certain way. It's this type of support group in a way. It allows them to do what they should be doing, which is growing food. You got into farming not to open up a Twitter account. You got into farmer because you like soil or you like new innovative methods. And the alliance is there to do similar to what it's a direct-to-consumer model that allows, centralized distribution. And I know it sounds crazy. Now you're talking about centralization. Now you're talking about, now you're building a new Walmart. But it's because it's done on such a local level, on such a smaller level than just on a city level, which sounds even. It's something that for me is it's having spent most of my time in the beginning only dividing my time equally between economics and the technical side of how we grow food. It was the only solution I could come up with. Everything else will just sort of kind of be like duct tape and dental floss, keeping this thing together. But again, if we worked cooperatively, I look at it as the only sustainable business model available to us. So.
The one thing I would add is that the industrial model is a failed, dying system. With climate change on its way, in some places you might argue that it's not coming, like in where we are. We just had snow on the ground, but I think that's part of climate change. It is a failed model. Why should people get into sustainable agriculture? Because it's the only brand of agriculture that's going to survive in the future. It's the only, there won't be another model in place. And so it's time to learn these alternatives now so that when it gets much worse, we'll have those in place. What's happening in Minnesota right now is irrigation systems are going up everywhere. So farmers are selling, or last year they sold their corn at $7 a bushel. They got flushed with cash, so they don't want to pay taxes. So they put in an irrigation system because they didn't get any rain. And so that's just a Band-Aid. That's just duct tape, put in an irrigation system. Totally changing the way you produce to build soil health rather than maximize yield. That's sustainable agriculture. That's something that can withstand what comes down the road.